Somalia sits on the easternmost tip of Africa. It is shaped like a horn. That is why people call this area the Horn of Africa. Somalia has a long coastline. It stretches along the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Aden. This makes Somalia very important for trade. The land of Somalia is mostly flat. There are plains and plateaus. In the north, there are some mountains. The climate is hot and dry. Most of Somalia is desert or semi-desert. But along the rivers, the land is good for farming. Somalia has been home to many people for thousands of years. The Somali people are the largest group. They have their own language and culture. Somalis are known for their poetry and storytelling. They have a rich oral tradition. Somalia's location has always made it important. It is close to the Middle East. It is also near the entrance to the Red Sea. This means many people have wanted to control Somalia. Over time, this led to conflicts and colonization. In the late 1800s, European countries started to take over Africa. They wanted land and resources. Somalia was not spared. Two countries took control of Somalia. These were Italy and Britain. They split the land between them. Italy took the south of Somalia. They called it Italian Somaliland. Britain took the north. This became British Somaliland. The two powers ruled differently. Italy wanted to settle their people in Somalia. Britain was more interested in trade. Life under colonial rule was hard for Somalis. They lost control of their land. Many were forced to work for the colonizers. The Italians and British changed the way things were done. They brought new laws and systems. These often clashed with Somali traditions. But the Somali people did not accept this quietly. There were many rebellions. One famous rebellion was led by Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. The British called him the Mad Mullah, but to Somalis he was a hero fighting for freedom. After World War II, things began to change. Many African countries started to fight for independence. Somalia was no different. In the 1950s, political parties formed. They wanted Somalia to be free from colonial rule. The Somali Youth League was very important. It was formed in 1943. Its goal was to unite all Somalis. They wanted to create one big Somali nation. This idea was called Greater Somalia. It included parts of other countries where Somalis lived. In British Somaliland, the Somali National League was active. They worked towards independence. In Italian Somaliland, there was the Somali Youth League. These groups organized protests. They held meetings. They spread ideas about freedom. The United Nations also played a role. After the war, Italy lost its colonies. The UN took over Italian Somaliland. They were supposed to prepare it for independence. This gave Somalis more chances to run their own affairs. It was a step towards freedom. Section 4. Heroes of Independence, key figures in Somalia's history. Many brave Somalis fought for independence. One of them was Aden Abdullah Osman Dar. He became the first president of Somalia. Dar was a member of the Somali Youth League. He worked hard to unite the Somali people. Another important figure was Abdirashid Ali Shamaka. He was the second president of Somalia. Before that, he was prime minister. Shamak was well educated. He used his skills to argue for Somalia's independence. Mohammed Ibrahim Eagle was also key. He was the leader of British Somaliland. Eagle helped negotiate independence from Britain. Later he worked to unite North and South Somalia. We must not forget the role of women. Hawa Taako was a famous freedom fighter. She was part of the Somali Youth League. Taako fought for both independence and women's rights. She showed that women could be leaders too. Section 5. A New Nation, Somalia's Independence Day. The big day finally came on July 1st, 1960. This was Somalia's Independence Day. First, British Somaliland became independent on June 26th. Then Italian Somaliland joined them. The two parts formed the Somali Republic. It was a day of great joy. People celebrated in the streets. They waved the new Somali flag. It was blue with a white star. The star represented the 5 parts of Greater Somalia. Aden Abdullah Osman Dar became the first president. Abdirashid Ali Sharmaka was the first prime minister. They had a big job ahead. They had to build a new country. They needed to create a government. They had to make laws. The new leaders faced many challenges. They had to bring together people from different regions. They had to deal with poverty and lack of education. But there was hope. Somalis were finally free to rule themselves. They could shape their own future. Somalia's journey. Independence brought many changes to Somalia. The country could now make its own decisions. It could choose its own path. Somalis could now work to improve their lives. But independence also brought challenges. The new government had to deal with many problems. There were conflicts between different groups. The dream of Greater Somalia caused tensions. The economy was weak and needed to grow. Over the years, Somalia has faced many difficulties. There have been wars and periods of unrest. The country has struggled with poverty and lack of development, but through it all, the spirit of independence has remained strong. Today, Somalia is still working to build a stable and prosperous nation. The road has not been easy, but the dream that began on July 1st, 1960, is still alive. Somalis continue to work for a better future. They remember the brave people who fought for their freedom. The story of Somalia's independence is a reminder of the power of hope and determination.